special place I have for Appalachian Spring with the music and the design and the simplicity of the set and the simplicity of the message, but still the power and the statement.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Appalachian Spring, you know, we have the paper trail of the collaboration between Martha Graham and Aaron Copland, and somewhat Noguchi, and you just see how they considered everything about the American experience, from American painting, poetry, religion, politics. You know, the Civil War was involved. They really struggled to capture the essences of America. Even had a segment of Uncle Tom's Cabin being performed on stage, on a little stage, things like that. And I think that process instilled in them the ideas that now resonate from Appalachian Spring. Really the core ideas of America that still speak today. And of course they considered it to be their contribution to the war effort when they were working on it in 42, 43, premiered in 44. So they wanted a story about American hope, optimism, frontier mentality, that looking towards the future. And they chose the story of a young bride and husband on their wedding day. So it really universalized it, and yet it's very American.
You know, even to this day, I teach a course in choreography, and I use that as a modern dance archetype, simply because of all the things that you talked about, and the idea of the couple forming a new life in this new frontier. It's so American. But in the same sense, nothing has changed. I mean, the idea of a housewarming, it almost feels like that. And then finally when everyone leaves and they're there by themselves.
Starting a life together. You know, the other thing I love about Appalachian Spring from the three collaborators is that they all borrowed from the American vernacular. You know, Copland, the most obvious, he borrowed that hymn, Gift to be Simple, and wove it into the music. But he also talked about the clip-clop of horses' hooves and the rhythms of America, and they're all in there. Graham, of course, borrowed from folk dance. The do-si-do is in there, and the thigh-slapping, foot-stomping. And Noguchi is clearly influenced by shaker furniture. So it's just such a great amalgamation of who we are.
And since we're talking about it, I love and the choreographic form, and the way the set itself frames it, and they stay within the framework. I mean, so even where the fence lies and how far they travel left or right of the set, she has framed. She always keeps when I see choreography like this, I always think of Renaissance perspective, linear perspective, and it's so clear in that work the way that the set frames the dance, and the dance fits in perfectly.
Yeah, I think so too. That the beams of Noguchi's house gives you the feeling that you're looking at the stage from a distance when you're in the audience, and you know, sets up that idea of a home on the corner of the frontier. But I danced the Pioneering Woman, and it was very clear that her level-headedness and her relationship to the horizon and the space that's over the heads of the audience is created by the set. So the set is really her partner in a way, and of course to all the characters in one way or another.
And I did some research on it, on the way that Noguchi designed the set, and compared it with Renaissance linear perspective.
Noguchi and Graham were revolutionizing the way space was used on stage, because you feel a huge space, but when you think about it, about a third of the dancing space on stage is cut off from the dancers. The house diagonals across the stage to center stage and really limits the amount of space on stage. So it's, you know, they were messing with space, and so innovative in that way. And they were also trying to change time on stage. In Appalachian Spring, you see how the cast will freeze and time will stop in a tableau, while one cast member will come forward and we get to listen to their inner monologue in a way. And then the whole cast starts dancing again, and then they freeze in another tableau. and another character comes forward, and we hear from them. It's a very interesting technique.
If you can teach art from that,
Yeah.
music from that, history from it, and then even when you put it in the context of when it was done.
Right.
That wonderful line, she says, no artist is before or after the time, how I'm paraphrasing, they're in their time.
Right.
And
Everyone else needs to catch up.
Yes. How wonderful, though.
Yes.
How wonderful. But when you think about that, and then you look at the work and see all. Now that was first performed 1944, Washington D.C.
Right.
at
Library of Congress.
Library of Congress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're actually going back. We'll be dancing it there again on April 1st and 2nd.
How wonderful.
Yeah, with live music. We're also having live music at City Center this year. So, but this idea of what the Taylor Company is doing, what Stephen Petronio is doing, taking in Trisha Brown's work, or Taylor having Donnie McHale's work there and Graham this season. I think the field is really embracing the idea that we have a history now. It's such a young art form, and it was born out of revolt, out with the old, in with the new. So now we're recognizing that we have a history that's valuable, that's profound, that's relevant to today's audiences, but we're figuring out how to curate it. And it's great to see these other companies taking in classics. We've had this problem for the last 10 years. How do because we have such a huge, important legacy. And I know we've spoken about our efforts for audience access, and all of these facets of Appalachian Spring, for example, that you're talking about. It's political, social history, primitive painting, the poetry of Hart Crane, the square dance aspects, the community aspects, all of these things we've tried to use to bring fresh eyes to the work. Partnering with a music group that will play the music live and read the Copeland letters, partnering with a museum that appreciates the Noguchi set, and certainly developing all sorts of arts education, auxiliary materials about community and expressing yourself through dance and Americana, et cetera, et cetera.